Welcome to another Shadowshaper Duels video. In today's video I am once again just going to be showing what Ming is currently selling on the EMEA server and giving my thoughts on each of the cards. As mentioned in this video last week, it does appear that he sells something different on every server, so if you are not on the EMEA server you will probably have different cards, and unfortunately there is no way I can check and see what he is selling. So feel free to leave in the comments below what he's selling on the other servers to help out people from them, and share your thoughts on the cards he is selling. I do also want to say that it does seem that sometimes his stock changes following the maintenance on Thursday. At least that's what happened last week. So if there is something here you are wanting to pick up, I would recommend doing it sooner rather than waiting till later in the week, because it's possible that after the Thursday maintenance, he will have a completely different stock again. So to start off with, I think he has some good cards on the EMEA server this week. We have the exotic card Atoll. This was a card I have been waiting for, because I believe it is a card that is required in order to get the triumph for reaching over 50 power on one unit. Its effect is just very simple. It doubles the power of a unit, so that can allow you to get a really high power card. Assuming the card is already buffed and has quite a high power, you can then just double it. So I will be putting out a video probably tomorrow where I show off a build using Atoll to get the 50 power triumph. So yeah, if you are needing that triumph, definitely pick her up, because I think she's the only way you can get it. Next we have the Elite Walker, which is a fallen card with a sustained attacking effect. When played on the back row, it deals 2 damage to 2 random opposing units, and that lasts basically for the rest of the game or until destroyed or suppressed. It is a very good attacking card. I remember using this quite a lot in the early game in my fallen builds, because it can output a lot of damage. 2 damage to 2 opponents for potentially 3 rounds if you play this on round 4 is a lot of damage. The only really drawback is that the card does not have a lot of health, having only 2 health, and obviously it must be played on the back row, so it can sometimes just be impossible to even play it if your opponent has maybe played something like the Resilient Grenade Dreg, which attacks for 2 damage on the back row. So yeah, I did quite often find if my opponent played a Grenade Dreg on round 3, I just couldn't play my Walker. But if that situation doesn't happen and you are able to play the card, then it will do some decent damage, and it will probably try and draw some focus from your opponent who may try and attack it or suppress it, which at least they then don't attack or suppress your other cards. So I would recommend picking it up, especially in the earlier game. It is a good addition to a fallen deck. Next we have the Unrelenting Captain, which again I think is a very good card, especially for the early game. It just has a sustained effect where each fallen dreg deployed gains 1 additional power. This is really good in combination with the Catch, which, as you know, drops 4 dregs. All of those dregs will then be given bonus 1 power. And you could even have a build where you put 2 of these cards in your deck and you play both of them first before you deploy the Catch. And then every time your dregs get deployed, they actually gain +2, +1 from both cards. So yeah, this was another card I used a lot in the early game in my Fallen deck, so I would recommend picking it up if you like the Fallen. Then we have the Hive Wizard, which is when played, it allows you to grant Inspired to one of your Hive units, and you get to pick which unit. So if you are looking to start putting together a Hive deck, I would recommend picking this up, because it is one of the better ways of giving a card Inspired. It doesn't require you to play it next to a card, or it doesn't require you to. It's not a random effect where you don't get to choose. You can choose which hive to give this to. So if you have other hive units that trigger certain things based on receiving a bonus, you can use this wizard to then grant that other hive unit Inspired. And obviously Inspired is sort of the whole point of the hive deck. So yeah, I think this is basically a staple, must include at least one of these in any Hive deck. Next we have the Cabal Legionary, which is a column unit. It's a very simple effect, it just gains +1 power when it is played in a column. This is probably, if you are short on tokens, the card I would say you can probably avoid picking up. I haven't yet put out my full review of the Cabal cards, like my tutorial for them, but I have put out some gameplay, and I do think column cards are weaker than line cards, is my initial take. Now, if you are going to use a Cabal column deck, this is probably a card you want to include because it is one of a few only, level 1 cards. And, it has an okay effect, gaining some power. But yeah, if you're not interested in making a Cabal column build, then you can certainly pass on this card. And then finally, you have the Shinka Gladiator, which is another Cabal card, but this time for line units. The description here is actually a little bit confusing. It doesn't really tell you what it does. It says a selected unit and the units to the left and right deal 2 additional damage, which makes it sound like this card buffs the units, your units to do more damage. But what it actually does is it just attacks 3 of your opponent's units, whatever unit you target and the units to its left and right, for 2 damage. So it is an attacking card, not a damage buffing card. It is essentially the Cabal equivalent of the, I think it's called Heavy Shank from the Fallen, which also targets 3 units. So yeah, it is just essentially the Cabal version of that. It must be played in a 5-unit line for its effect to even trigger. So I guess it has that limitation, whereas the Shank doesn't. Obviously, the only advantage this has over the Shank is this could be buffed by other your other Cabal units when you have the Cabal cards that say your Cabal units deal additional damage. This will be buffed by that. And also, if you are playing it in a line on round 5, that might enable you to play something else in a line on round 6, like the tank. So yeah, if you have a Cabal line deck, you maybe want to include one of these just as an attacking option. So yeah, they are the cards that Ming is selling, at least on the EMEA server. Thank you for watching, and yeah, please feel free to leave in the comments below what he is selling on the other servers, and look out for the guide video coming out probably tomorrow, where we use Atal to get the 50 power on 1 card Triumph.